Well, welcome everyone to Mindful Mondays with Laura Cross, where we are your resource for connection, for education, connection, and collaboration to support you on your wellness journey. And I would like to start by thanking our sponsors, Amelia South, White Sands Premier Travel, and Quantum Awakening. These sponsored appearances is what makes Mindful Mondays with Laura Cross possible, and we greatly appreciate you. So our special guest today is Amelia South from Black Sun Farms. Amelia is a professional foraging instructor, a practicing herbalist, and gut health expert living on her small organic farm in Eastern Connecticut. And she is passionate about foraging wild foods and medicinal plants and helping others heal themselves by escaping the toxic Western diet. So welcome, Amelia, and thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I love what you do. I mean, that is just fascinating. Can you tell us how you got started in foraging and what inspired you to pursue it as a profession?
So it's just getting started was about 2006. The first time I remember foraging anything on purpose was I was living in Washington State. Out in the Bremerton, Silverdale area, which is not too far from Seattle. And in that part of Washington State, if anybody that's listening has ever been there, there's a blackberry festival every year because of how many blackberries grow. And I didn't realize anything about the blackberry festival until I started seeing blackberries. And when I say there are blackberries everywhere, I mean literally everywhere. Like it's an invasive species up there. Everywhere you go, every road is just covered in these wild blackberries. And I'm looking at it going, oh, hey, free food source right there. And everybody's like, I feel like the gateway to the gateway drug / fruit to foraging is always going to be berries of some kind. Mm-hmm. Blackberries, raspberries, or blueberries usually, because everybody can recognize them. A blackberry at the grocery store looks almost exactly like a blackberry in the wild. You know, they're the same. So anyway, I got a big bowl from my kitchen. I went out and I just stood there on the side of the road and I picked as many as I could. And I taught myself how to make jam and froze some for whatever. And I think I made a pie and all kinds of stuff like that. So that was like the very first time I remember doing it on purpose. From then on, I got more and more into it, which much to the annoyance of my ex-husband. I didn't care. So fruits are the way to start because an apple, a wild apple still looks like an apple. A wild pear, it's still a pear. It's just they haven't been tended to, basically. The only really truly wild apples there are in this country are crab apples, and crab apples come in 100 different varieties and sizes. There's some like ornamental crab apples with those little teeny weeny dingly berry looking ones. Mm-hmm. And then there's the ones that are that I prefer, which is like they're almost like this. Where's the camera? That big, like a $50 size or so. Right. Those bigger crab apples, and those are the nice ones that you can make jam with, or you can make your own pectin with. And if I ever find those, I haven't found too many of them lately, but I used to live at a different, like up in Massachusetts, and I was finding quite a lot of them up there.
You said your own pectin?
Pectin, yeah, for making jam.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay.
So pectin is the thing that you have to add to fruits usually to make them gel into jam, like to make it all stick together. And crab apple skins are ridiculously high in pectin naturally, so you can pick a whole bunch of crab apples and like boil them in water on your stove, and then you just strain it all out, and you have your own pectin that you can add, and it'll basically make your jam gel.
Nice. I've never made jam before. I've gotten the fresh berries. As a matter of fact, I have a blackberry bush growing. It took it about 2 years to start blooming and actually getting fruits, but they're actually really good. I have an Apache blackberry plant, but
Does it have thorns on it?
Does it have what?
Thorns.
Really, very tiny. They're very tiny. Yeah, they're not it's not very thorny, but and I always used them for smoothies or, putting them in a fruit salad. I've never even, messed with jams, so.
Yeah, I was making a lot of jam. I just literally this morning went out and started harvesting my grapes. Mm-hmm. And that's the only thing I've got enough of to make jam on my property. I have a berry addiction. So every time I go out and I'm picking raspberries or blackberries or blueberries, they're lucky if they make it back into the house. And basically all this summer, pretty much the entire berry harvest that I got over the summer ended up in pancakes for me and my son. So,
yeah, or you can make the syrup with it. I've done that too. But berries are supposed to be really good with high in antioxidants, most of them, right?
excellent. They're very, very high nutrition for you. And I make, I don't use wheat. So I've been making buckwheat pancakes. If you've never had buckwheat pancakes, holy crap, they're so good. They're so good. Buckwheat pancakes are amazing. Buckwheat isn't actually a grain, it's a seed. But they grind it up into flour, and I'm sure everybody's at least heard of buckwheat because you can get like buckwheat noodles and buckwheat flour and things like that. But it's higher in protein, and it also does not upset anybody with like celiac disease or gluten intolerance. So yeah, buckwheat's really, really great as a grain alternative. Anyway, and
nice.
it makes fantastic pancakes. So
I will have to look for that and try that. I know about using like almond flour or coconut flour versus, the other stuff, but not that.
Almond flour pancakes are lame compared to buckwheat flour because, well, buckwheat flour, like it much more closely resembles wheat flour in consistency, like when you're working with it. If you're wanting to bake something, bake a bread or make pancakes or make muffins or something like that, and you want something that's going to be a lot closer to the consistency of like regular like wheat flour that you were used to, buckwheat is going to be a really, really great option. It's still going to be, there isn't like the fat content like you're getting in the almond flour, so it might kind of, when you've got a higher fat content in the nuts, that actually sits in your stomach a little longer, which is why you feel full for a lot longer after you've been eating nuts or almonds or something, or anything made with almond flour. The buckwheat flour doesn't quite do that, but it still sits in your stomach a lot longer than the regular like cheap wheat flour. I don't even buy wheat flour from the store anymore. I won't eat that. So
yeah, I stopped eating that and bread as well. But so you've obviously had a passion for this, and you've always had foraging. You've obviously done a lot of research because you have a lot of knowledge. What inspired you to pursue it as a profession?
I was actually honestly just I don't even want to say it was my ego, but I basically said, I'm really good at this. Maybe somebody wants me to teach it to them. And this was like 4 years ago, like right in the middle of Corona,
Right.
I said, I do this. I've been doing this for myself for a long time, and I was just getting better and better and better at it. And I think I called up a friend of mine who had an organic farm like 10 minutes away from here. And I said, would you like me to do a workshop? Want me to do like a foraging walk? Because she was looking for stuff to do. And I did that. And I think like 25 people showed up. It was huge. So I did not expect that kind of a turnout. And I just talked about all the stuff that I normally talk about. And I'm like, oh, this is what this is, and this is what this is, and this is what I do with it, and this is what I do with this. And people absolutely loved it. Like they were telling me, oh my gosh, how did you learn all this? Where did you learn them? And I'm just sitting here going, I didn't even know what I knew was that different. I didn't.
Oh,
it
yes,
feels like normal. I thought everybody knew this,
No, everybody does not know that. But and there's been more and more people getting health conscious. And I think, like you said, the whole Corona thing brought that even more to the front for some people. But it can be overwhelming because there's so much to know about what you can put, what you can't. Some stuff is poisonous, I believe, and some's not. So I mean,
toxic.
The fact that you've toxic, the fact that you've gone through that, and kind of can help guide people without them losing themselves down whatever rabbit hole or whatever someone has about it is amazing.
Well, the biggest fear everybody has is I might poison myself. It's I don't want to touch a mushroom. What if I die? And let me tell you, for anybody that's listening right now, let me assure you, you will not poison yourself just touching a mushroom. All mushrooms are safe to touch. Even the ones that can kill you, you can still touch it. It's only going to kill you if you eat it. All right? Just so everybody stops freaking out, because I mean,
just an FYI.
yeah. Well, a lot of people freak out because they're like, "Oh my gosh, my toddler was touched this mushroom. Is she going to die?" And it's like, if she didn't eat it, she's okay, And that's happened a lot. because people think like it's going to get absorbed through your. It's not like touching a poison dart frog, where that's going, that's not a good idea. Mushrooms are a
not
different
recommended.
Yeah, exactly. And I always say don't start with mushrooms if that's not like. I've been saying this for a while. For whatever reason, I've noticed the people that get into foraging, the people that like are super duper ridiculously gung ho about mushrooms and like to the detriment of almost everything else that you can forage, and there are thousands of things you can forage. Everybody that wants just mushrooms is always a guy. It's always a man. They only want mushrooms. They're like, I don't care about the plants. I want to know what mushrooms, this, that, and the other thing. And I'm not exactly sure why that is, but a lot of professional mycologists and people that teach mushroom foraging class, they're all dudes, almost every one of them. And I do both. So I'm not a mycologist and I'm not a botanist. I almost said biologist. I'm not a biologist either. I'm not a botanist and I'm not a mycologist. I know a lot about mycology and botany, but I'm not like studied in it or anything like that. Sure. When I take when I go take people on a foraging walk, they say, "Oh my gosh, you know about mushrooms. I want to learn about mushrooms, this, mushrooms, that, mushrooms." And I'm like, I know like 20 mushrooms. All right. There's like 200,000 mushrooms in this world. And I can positively identify 20, 25 of them tops, which is not a lot considering. But the thing is, the ones that I really try to focus on and learn more about are the edible ones or the medicinal ones. Like, hey, if I can do something with this, that's great. If it's like I just happen to see a lot of it and you can't do anything because it's toxic or it's pretty or whatever, right. I might remember the name of it, but I'm not going to I'm not going to know much more about it than that. And that's just me. There's other people out there that know way more than me about mushrooms. So I just wanted to put people's minds at ease. If you're worried about poisoning yourself, start with plants. And the best place to start is right outside your own backyard. Honestly.
I was going to say, because that was going to be my next question. What are some of the first wild foods that you would recommend beginners try foraging?
Well, are you interested in wild food or wild medicine? Because I do both. I eat a lot of wild foods. But then there's also some plants that grow ubiquitously all over the country that they might be edible, but they're not like yummy edible, but it's like, holy cow, this is amazing medicine, that sort of thing. And I like to talk to people about that too. Because again, food is medicine. I literally just released another little ebook this morning about food being medicine and explaining all of this stuff about, the vitamin content and the mineral content in these wild foods are so much stronger than anything that you can grow. Really, at least in the United States, because our soil has been so ridiculously depleted from magnesium and other minerals for years and years and years. Right. It takes a lot of input to be able to grow these plants anymore, the things that we're used to eating every day as vegetables. Whereas the stuff that doesn't rely on that, all the wild plants and wild foods that are just popping up randomly in your yard, those end up being higher in nutritional value. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I like eating them. But again, food is medicine, because if you're getting all the right vitamins and minerals in your diet, your body is able to function. And people they just underestimate beyond belief how important your diet is to the functioning of your body. They're like, I get people come to me every single day asking me, how do I fix this problem? How can I fix that problem? Like, you're an herbalist. What herb can I take that's going to solve this problem? And I'm like, listen, I hate to break it to you, but you need to change your diet. And so nobody wants to hear that. Really. Yeah. Nobody wants to hear that. Because, they don't want to stop eating the things that make them happy, because a lot of people are emotional eaters. And I'm not a saint. I'll eat a cookie once in a while. It's usually going to be like either sugar-free or wheat-free, gluten-free, whatever cookie. But again, I eat something sweet once in a while too. It's not the end of the world. But when you're making that stuff part of your diet every day, when you're drinking your calories, when you're doing, a lot of soda and even diet soda, that's terrible for you. But again, bringing it back to the plants, when your body is eating the vitamins and minerals and all the nutrition that you actually need to function, your body changes. you basically naturally detoxify yourself. Everybody's like, how do I do a detox? What do I do for detox? How do I detox? And I'm like,
Everybody
listen, you
wants
have
a quick fix, and it's like, this is not a quick
exactly.
fix. Yeah.
Everybody wants to do so, like, well, I'll stick with this for 5 days, but I can't handle more than that. And it's like, dude, you got to stick with this for years. I hate to break it to you. And if me saying that is turning you off, whoever's watching, I apologize. I hate to burst your bubble, but it is the food that you're eating that is slowly poisoning you. And if you don't change it, it's just going to keep building up and getting worse and worse and worse.
Yeah,
So
and there's things we can do, because even I had learned
yeah.
from another lady about clean eating and getting rid of some of that stuff, which is why I got rid of the flour, the bread, and everything else. And it's amazing because a lot of the inflammation, your aches and your pains and stuff go away. And the minute you have that cheat day and you eat something, it's like all of a sudden massive pain back. So it's like, if you
Oh
listen
yeah.
to your body will tell you. It may taste good, but if your body ain't liking it and it's putting you in pain and you can't sleep, then
Yeah.
what good is that?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's the same. Like if I used to, I'd get in a lot of pain from having pizza, or if I ever ate a cheeseburger, I'd be horrible pain. I actually, my one of my personal things that I went through was I used to drink a lot of wine. I was a wino, like crazy. And so I know what a good wine tastes like because I have a lot of experience. I don't drink anymore. The first step down to not drinking anymore was to, when I realized that the red wine, the glass or two of red wine I was having every night was causing my inflammation. And I think what happened in reality, and you might relate to this, I basically ran out of red wine. I didn't have any for like a few days, and I realized after like 3 days, I'm like, holy, I don't hurt anymore. I don't hurt anymore. My back pain went from like a 9 to maybe a 2, because I just stopped drinking red wine. So if anybody's dealing with that, like think about the stuff that you're putting in your body that is potentially causing, and even if you don't drink alcohol, you don't smoke, you eat what you think to be really healthy, it is very possible that you're allergic to something that you're eating, or you're allergic to something that you're putting on your skin, you're allergic to something in your environment, because a lot of times that inflammation will rise, or you'll get this horrible pain somewhere, you'll have this symptom that keeps reoccurring, and it's due to either something that you're putting in your body or your whatever. It's an allergy, and a lot of people don't make that connection.
No.
So yeah, you have to think about the allergies, and then of course you're going to say, well, how do I stop having the allergy? And it's like, the first step to solving your problem is to identify your problem, right?
Which is really removing one at a time, because if you
Yep.
remove them all and then things go away and then start adding, you don't know
Yep.
exactly which one was
Exactly.
causing it. And everybody's body, reacts differently. So
Yep.
just because that reacted that way to you does not mean it would react that way in somebody. But that's why you need to listen to your body, I would say, for one.
Yeah. Yeah. Teaching people how to listen to their body, listen to the cues that their body's giving them, is honestly part of the struggle. And I'm trying to think of like, how can I even explain this to people? Because I really, when you have a rash show up on your skin,
Mm-hmm.
you get seborrheic dermatitis or eczema or psoriasis or acne even. Almost every single person, their brain immediately goes to, oh no, this is horrible. What can I put on it to make it go away? And that's not where your mind needs to go. It's not, what can I put on this to make it go away? Because your skin is your largest organ. All right. It's your largest organ in general, and it's your largest organ of elimination. So it's eliminating things. Like, that's the reason we're all sweaty. We're sweating because we're eliminating. That's actually urea. I don't know if anybody knew that. Like, side note, your sweat is the same stuff as your pee. It doesn't smell like that because it's
Right.
coming out a different thing, but it's the same exact. That's why, like, if you're outside all day, you're sweating like crazy all day, you notice later you didn't really have to pee. It's because this is
Oh,
eliminating that toxin. Your skin is eliminating something that's inside your body. So if you're getting a rash, eczema, rosacea, psoriasis, acne, all those topical things, there's something to do with your diet. It's your gut health, or your diet, or something internal is trying to escape via your skin. And again, that all brings it back to foraging. That's one of the reasons why I forage as much as I possibly can, because that food is medicine. I mean, I can give you some. Oh, that's the other thing I was going to tell you about. The diversity of the diets of people. I mean, I don't want to say the human diet, like American diet is probably the best way to say. You can go into the grocery store and look around in the vegetable fruit area, right? The produce section. Mm-hmm. And you're probably like, oh, look at all these vegetables, look at all these fruits, yada, yada. This is great. Especially if you're in like a small town and it's like you're going up Walmart or something to look for fruits or vegetables. And oh yeah, they've got a lot of fruits and vegetables. I want you to understand that there are maybe 10 plant families making up everything you see in the grocery store. Our human diet has been whittled down by thousands of plants, thousands of different plants, into we're just producing the ones that grow the fastest, grow the easiest, and we can grow the most of in a short amount of time. Okay? And so you can go into the grocery store and say, oh, this is a pretty good selection. But if you know the plant families, tomatoes, potatoes, peppers, all of those things are in the Solanaceae family. Broccoli, cauliflower, collard greens, kale, kohlrabi. What else? There's another one. Yeah, all of that stuff is in the Brassica family.
Is bok choy in that one too?
Yeah, bok choy. Yeah, a lot of those greens are in the Brassica family. Mm-hmm. So there's certain plant families that we've bred over time, and it's not just GMO crap. I'm talking humans have selectively bred these foods over time, over years, and that's all we have now in the grocery store is these same plant families, which is fine. And I would a million times rather hear somebody saying, well, at least I'm eating the vegetables and I'm not living on Doritos and Oreos and, Coca-Cola and stuff. Because any vegetables are better than the processed crap. But humans' diets, we used to be, hunter-gatherers, right?
Right.
When you're gathering whatever edible plants you can find. It doesn't matter if it's pretty. It doesn't matter if it's super tasty. It doesn't matter where you got it, really, as long as it's not toxic and it's not going to hurt you. Hey, if it's edible, we're eating that. Because if we don't eat that, we're dead, That's, you got to remember that 99% of human history, the history of human beings as a thing happened before industrialization, before society, before civilization, really.
Absolutely.
Like we developed as a species prior to, having buildings and having farmland and all that other crap. So your body is built to have a diverse microbiome. And if you don't know what the microbiome is, hopefully everybody knows by now, like you've heard of probiotics.
Right.
There are little tiny microscopic bacteria things that live inside your stomach. And we are actually way more bacteria than person, believe it or not. There's more of them than we are. But they live inside your stomach and they help you digest your food. They eat the food with you, basically. And having diversity is just like if you think of the human population. If there was only 1,000 people left in the world, would we be able to breed with each other enough to increase the population? 1,000 is a really small number to have diversity in the gene pool. I think after the bubonic plague, it was the human population of like the entire world was like 10,000 people or something like that, and we barely recovered from that.
Right.
So yeah, imagine that going on in your gut. If you've only got maybe 1,000 different guys and gals in there able to breed with each other and reproduce with each other, it's gonna make it more difficult. You develop a more diverse microbiome by eating diverse foods. If you can, the more different interesting foods you can get, especially if they're high in fiber, and different vegetables matter and stuff like that. Because there's only so many animals. I mean, not everybody's going to go out and
Right.
eat a cane toad or something. I don't know. So, nobody's going to go out and do some really weird things.
Yes, I've seen that, but we're going to have to hold off real quick because we do need to take a quick break for a word from our sponsors. But I know you have a lot more to share because, we're about to go even deeper into the gut health and symptoms and everything. So we'll be right back. So when you were starting to mention the other things, I don't know if you've ever watched American Ninja Warrior, but they have one of their warriors that does nothing but like specializes in eating different bugs, and he always brings them like a different bug to eat. So from what I understand, there's a lot of protein. I personally cannot bring myself to that level, but
I have not eaten bugs on purpose. Like, I guarantee somewhere along the lines I've eaten bugs. If I don't see it, it doesn't exist as far as I'm concerned. And I've probably eaten snail poop or something like that at some point. You can't win them all. That's why I do a parasite cleanse once a year. But anyway, the whole thing I was talking about is trying to have a good, a diverse microbiome by eating diverse foods. Right. If you're, and I know there's going to be some people watching that say, well, I don't like this. I don't like that. I don't like this. I don't like that. I'm a picky eater. I'm just a picky eater. That's just the way I am. First off, that's your programming. You've programmed yourself to think that way. Okay.
Yeah.
Second, you probably, my guess is like probably 80% of the time at least, you're a picky eater because you don't like the way something tastes, right? You don't like the taste or you don't like the texture. And those two objections can be fixed by cooking it a different way, preparing it the right way. There are a million different ways to cook something or prepare a vegetable or a fruit, and you can find one that you'll actually enjoy. I used to, when I was farming full time, people would tell me, like, I'd go to the farmer's market with a bunch of beets, and I'd have people almost every week be like, ew, beets are gross. Nobody eats beets. And I'd be like, how are you eating your beets that you think beets are gross? And these people would be like, well, I boil them, of course. And I say, well, that's why you think beets are gross, because boiled beets are gross.
I like pickled beets myself. I like them in my salad.
Yeah, I like pickled beets too. I make my own pickled beets. But my favorite way to do beets is I saute them in bacon fat. And when I tell people that, like, you can either fry up some bacon, pull the bacon out, and then you chop up your beets and you stick them in the bacon fat, maybe with like a sliced up onion, and you saute them like that with salt and pepper if you want. And every single time I say that to whatever person, they say, well, of course it tastes good that way. And I'm like, listen to yourself. If it tastes good that way, that's the way you cook it and get it into your mouth hole, okay? You eat it whatever way you can make it taste good. If you have to smother your broccoli in some cheese to get some broccoli into your mouth, do it. Just do it.
Yeah, I've had people that tell me it's texture. I have people that tell me I'm not picky. I just know what I like to eat. And I'm like, okay, picky.
You're very picky, yes.
Very, very
Well,
picky.
and then there's people that are dealing with children letting there are some people that have a child that they're letting their child control them by, oh, you don't have to eat what we're eating. It's fine. I'll make you French fries or I'll make you chicken nuggets or something. You can eat whatever you want to eat, just because if they feel like if their kid doesn't eat something, then they're a bad parent, and this is a societal thing. I taught both of my kids when they were very, very little that if they don't eat what I give them, they go to bed hungry. And I know there's a lot of adults in here that are like, yep, I remember that, but my kid, and I'm not saying in a mean way. I was never like, here, eat this flavorless gruel or you go to bed hungry. I'm not horrible.
Right.
I'm going to make a nice healthy meal with vegetables and meat and, the good stuff that I'm going to eat. And this is what I'm sitting down to eat. And you're going to sit down and eat this thing. They're allowed to pick something. Like if my son doesn't like peppers, and I'm like, listen, I'm not going to stop cooking with peppers just because you don't like them, but he's allowed to pick the peppers out. I'm like, you have your one thing you're allowed to hate. Okay.
Right.
And that's it. But otherwise I'm like, you're eating that. You're eating that. And they only have to go to bed hungry once for them to know that you mean business, and it works.
That's one thing I've noticed recently, because I used to do a job a long time ago, like in the Sam's, and I've noticed people that their kids actually gravitated to the ones that had vegetables in it, or they liked their vegetables and wanted to try that. And I was like, I thought that was pretty cool to see, because that's, that wasn't something you were used to, but it seems to be more and more nowadays that there are people that have kids that just, they don't want the junk food. They would rather have the vegetables.
Yeah. I remember my mother used to give me absolute hell at a restaurant because she'd be like, how come your son won't eat anything off the kids menu? I'm like, because they give you garbage on the kids menu. He wants real food.
Yeah.
I'm proud of him for that. Are you kidding me? So that's, and if you have an autistic child that has very specific food aversions, and there's a way that you can do that same method. It's not easy and it sucks. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of screaming. But if you can give that, whether they're autistic or they have ADHD, this has been scientifically proven multiple times, okay? That if you start feeding that child the nutrition that their body needs to function, all the problems that are causing the overreactions and the stress and the anxiety and all that start to dissipate. They don't go away completely. I'm not saying there's no such thing as ADHD or autism. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is you can manage those conditions with dietary changes where you're feeding. I mean, I've seen this firsthand.
Right.
Give they're eating pizza and Doritos, and maybe they eat an apple once in a while, and they're like wired as heck and they can't pay attention to anything, versus 24 hours later they've been eating, like if a stir fry with ground beef and onions and peppers and I don't know, eggplant or green beans or kale or whatever weeds you forage out in the backyard.
Right.
It's different. Their body, basically, their cells have been starving for that nutrition that they desperately need. And when they finally get like the vitamin A, the vitamin K, the vitamin D, the zinc, all of a sudden their body can calm down. Like when your body's finally receiving magnesium in sufficient quantities for the first time in years, your body can calm down, and start actually functioning, and the rest of you can calm down. Anxiety, depression, brain fog, they're all directly related to your diet, to your gut. Which is, again, I've had people tell me, I don't understand what foraging has anything to do with any of this. And I'm like, well, when you're foraging food and you're putting the food into your body, and then we're talking about gut health, I'm trying to burn it in people's mind. There is a connection.
There's a bridge. Yeah, they're all connected. You just got to understand.
Everything is interconnected, because one of the reasons I forage, yes, I make herbal medicines and things too, absolutely, and that's a big part of what I do, and I help people with that. But every single time I do a consultation, the very first thing I ask somebody is, what's your diet like? I want to know what you're eating, what you've been eating, and I need you to be honest with me. Like, what are your
Oh,
cheat
yeah.
foods? How often are you cheat food? You know?
Yeah, people can't help you if you're just giving them the answer that you know that they want to hear and it's not true.
Exactly. Exactly. If you straight up like if I say to you, "What's your diet like?" and you immediately cringe and you're like, "Oh, it's probably not that good." You know that that's the problem. You know it's the problem. You're just avoiding it, and you're hoping that I'll give you some magic herb that's going to solve everything else without you having to change your diet. That does not exist. And I have lost fans over this. I've lost people. I've lost friends over this because I'm not going to force feed it to anybody.
Oh,
If
no.
they ask, it's if you ask me, I'm going to tell you the truth, and it's what you're eating. And here's the thing that so many people get scared off by. Again, that's why I just told the bacon and beets story.
Mhm.
You can make healthy food taste good. Healthy food should taste good. You shouldn't just be eating steamed vegetables every
Right.
day of the week. Steamed vegetables are garbage. They're gross. I don't want to eat steamed vegetables. Tastes like gross. If the best way to eat the people, so I used to manage a small farm up in Massachusetts, and these kids worked under me, like I was their manager. And every time somebody would come into the farm stand and say, "Oh, how do I cook that?" or "How do I cook this?" I'd be like, "Fry it in bacon fat." And they would make fun of me. The kids would be like, "You just think everything should be fried in bacon fat." And I'm like, "Yeah, well, that's how it tastes good. Hello."
Well, there's a lot of people I know that would agree with you too.
Yes. And here's the thing though, you got to if you're willing to take the extra step, don't just get the cheap garbage bacon like from Walmart has crappy bacon. Go to, if you can, find a local farm and get bacon from a local farm. Oh my God, best bacon you'll ever have in your life, guaranteed. Because when they're raising that pig themselves and they have it smoked, it's just it's
Yeah.
another world. It's another flavor completely.
Well, and
To
that's
get
another
local
thing. Not
bacon.
everybody lives near farms. And I know a lot of people feel they just have weeds in their backyard, but I believe you even know how to use weeds.
Everything, a weed is just a plant that's growing in some place that people don't want it to grow. That's it. And most of my yard is weeds. I will tell you right now, one of the things that I do, I take people on foraging walks, but I go to somebody's house. I will go to somebody's house and I will do a foraging walk for them in their own backyard, right? A lot of people think, "Oh, we've got to have 10 acres." Like, no, you can have like a quarter of an acre and we can spend an hour talking about this. Every single time I end up blowing these people's minds because we are within 10 feet of their back door and we've already been talking for 30 minutes about all the plants we found within 10 feet, maybe 20 feet of their back door. Almost every single time I do a foraging walk, this happens because people just don't realize it. You're walking on your food. Seriously.
Yeah. Do you ever put any of those foraging walks? I know you've shared a lot of stuff. Is that on your YouTube channel as well?
I have foraging stuff on my YouTube. I'm on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. Not as many people watch me on Instagram for whatever reason. They're all watching me on Facebook and TikTok. I do get people on YouTube. It's better to follow me on TikTok or YouTube if you want like the longer form stuff. Facebook limits me to 90 seconds, and it's like, listen, there's only so much I could tell you in 90 seconds. And, then people get all annoyed, like, "Hey, you didn't say this, you didn't say that." I'm like, "Oh, go to YouTube, please." Because then you get the whole detailed information there. That's my 2 cents. I do talk about all this stuff on my YouTube. I talk with trees. I give lessons on that. I talk about the microbiome. I talk a lot about plant identification. And I teach classes too. So I teach classes online and in person.
Nice.
So I want this to be out there for everybody. Now, granted, if you're interested in learning about the plants that I see, the northeastern section of the United States, basically, or into Canada, from like North Carolina all the way up through Canada, and then as far west as I would say probably like Michigan or thereabout, Michigan, Oklahoma, in that general vicinity of 20 million people or whatever the heck it is. That's basically, if you live in there, then it's perfect. I can teach you everything I know. If you're in like Utah or New Mexico, I'm not going to know most of what you've got. There are some weeds that mostly are invasive to this country, and they're all over the United States. things like mullein or plantain or dandelion. Like pretty much everybody knows what a dandelion looks like. Do you know
Right.
dandelions are edible and medicinal? You
Yeah, I
know,
was gonna say I know dandelion root is used for things, and it has other properties, but
I have dandelion root tea every night. I love it. It's like my favorite thing. Roasted dandelion root tea tastes like chocolate. Absolutely amazing.
does it
Oh,
help you
so good.
sleep, or
Well,
what's its main function?
it supports your liver. So
Okay.
it does help you sleep because the reason you're waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning is you've got a liver problem. Your liver is struggling. And a lot of people could use more liver support. Fresh dandelion root, like as a tincture or something, is going to be a little bit stronger of a liver support agent than the roasted. But like when you roast it, it changes the flavor completely. It makes it much more enjoyable to ingest. The leaves are specific for kidney health. And the flowers help with inflammation, but they're also really like moistening. I put them in a lot of like soothing balms and things for your skin. So I also eat them. The whole plant is edible. Honestly, the stem is probably like the worst tasting part, but it's not horrible. I
Right.
just chop it up and stick it in a stir fry or something. I do a lot of stir fries.
I've
One of
done a lot of
yeah,
stir fries myself too, with a little
it's
bit of turmeric and other stuff, and I just
yeah,
put them in
that's the
there.
way to go. Honestly, throw a bunch of stuff in your cast iron pan, cook it, and then eat it. Throw some salt on it if you need to.
I
But
love watching how bright it looks when you put the turmeric on it because it gets like the bright yellow and stuff. It
yeah,
will stain your your counters if you don't get it off. But turmeric's supposed to be good for inflammation and arthritis and stuff as well. So
it does. You have to mix it with black pepper for it to be
okay,
absorbed. So make sure you're putting black
yep.
pepper.
There's black pepper in there too. Yeah,
Yeah. So that's one thing to make sure people do. And that's another, inflammation, if you're fighting inflammation, which, 90% of everybody's pain is caused by inflammation.
yeah,
Turmeric can help, but pinpointing your allergies and pinpointing where the problem is coming from is going to do more for you than the turmeric will by itself.
right, right.
Like what I prefer to do is help a person. Look, let's fix your diet. Let's get you eating the right things so we can naturally reduce your inflammation that way. And then once you've gone from an 8, 9, 10 horrible pain inflammation down to like a 1 or a 2, then we can work with some herbs that will help take the edge off of the last of it. If you need a little support, that's when turmeric is going to really help. Like you go from, oh, I've got a 2 on my pain scale. Oh, I don't feel anything now, or birch or wild lettuce or willow or any of those kinds of things that have pain killing properties.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Long list of stuff you can do. Like you said, it's food as medicine. But what are some of the misconceptions about foraging that you'd like to clear up for people?
Well, number one we already talked about, which is mushrooms
Yep.
are not gonna kill you just by touching them. So that's one. Let's see. What does people think they're gonna? It's not as difficult as you think it is to start. Either pick 1 or 2 plants, or go look in your backyard. Look right outside your back door. Look at what's growing in the sidewalk up to your porch, or whatever. Okay, and I wonder what that thing is. That's step 1. All right. Step 2, try to identify it if you can. The likelihood is it's going to be something known as a weed. But the worst weeds, this is something David Winston says, he's a famous herbalist. The worst weeds are your best medicine. And it's true. I mean, honest to God, my small farm is probably 60 or 70% weeds right now. And it sounds terrible. It's like, why don't you go weed your garden, Amelia? And it's like, because there's only like 3 things I actually want out of there. Everything else, I'm either eating this or I'm
Right.
waiting for it to propagate or I want more. And, or I'm making medicine with this one. And I just did a video for TikTok this morning about red clover. And I'm like, people are like, oh yeah, there's no red clover. I don't see red clover. I used to eat red clover. I'm like, red clover is super medicinal and delicious and full of nutrition. Um, the the thing, what's another misconception? I'm trying to think. So it's not difficult. Mushrooms aren't going to kill you. Um,
What about how to identify them? So I had a Picture This app that I paid for a while because I could take a picture of anything in the property, because being in Missouri, I've got like 100 different trees that I never had in Colorado, and trying to find out what they're good and can you eat them? Because a lot of them have different kinds of berries, and it'll say it's good for the birds, not necessarily good for people.
Yeah.
But plus I have like wild onion or garlic, whatever, that little wild sprigs that come up all over the property.
Yep. Yeah.
So, I mean, is there one that you would recommend, or how, when people are starting, how would you suggest they start identifying them?
Well, you can start by taking one of my classes if you want.
Well, I mean, yes.
Plug that.
Yeah.
But I have Leaf Snap. That's an app that I have on my phone, and it's been more accurate than all the other apps I've tried. It's still not 100% accurate, and honestly, like I said, start with the easier stuff. Like, hey, I'm pretty sure this is a grapevine. I'm going to double check, and then you take a picture and then you put it up. You know what? That is a grapevine. Sweet. I've got it right. I think this is a dandelion. The thing about dandelions, I'll warn you right now, there's like 10 different varieties of dandelions. So there's some dandelions that look very dandelion-ish, and then there's some that like have these rounder tips on the ends. And it's like, I've seen so many of them. I know what all the dandelions look like. They have the same smooth leaves. Well, there's a couple of little prickers. They're not furry. There's a couple of prickers. Yeah. So the best way to really learn foraging is to go out foraging. If you can find a local class, please take that class. If there's a good foraging instructor near you, you can learn stuff online, and you can definitely get started online. The foraging ebook that I wrote, it's got pictures, but it's also got links to like videos that I took. So you can say, oh, I know what this is. Oh, I'm going to watch the video and show the whole plant, see exactly what it looks like. That's why I did that. But outside of that, getting started with that, physically going out and doing it yourself. Like if you know for sure what this plant is, you've positively identified it, touch it with your fingers, smell it, feel it, taste it. All of your senses, use all of your senses to experience that plant. Even if again, I'll just use a dandelion for reference because everybody can picture a dandelion. Mm-hmm. You want to eat a dandelion flower when it's yellow. You don't want to eat it when it's the seed. I mean, you can.
Yeah, the puff. All
the puffs. Technically, you can. Somebody asked me last year, they asked me on TikTok, they're like, I just saw a girl eat one of those. And I'm like, I'm sorry. It doesn't look very pleasant. No. Dandelion seeds are absolutely edible, but you're eating it with the whole little puff, and it's like, I can't imagine that tasting very good.
Yeah, having the fuzz in your mouth. I will tell you, truth be told, one of the reasons I wanted that app is because there's a lot of poison ivy on our property, and I didn't want to just go out and touch and feel and then wind up.
Well, poison ivy, you need to recognize poison ivy. That is absolutely very important, especially if you're anywhere outside. I think there's no poison ivy in California, Oregon, or Washington, right? But other than that, there's like poison ivy everywhere. Everywhere east of the Rockies has poison ivy.
Oh yeah, we have lots of it here in Missouri.
Oh, we have lots of it here too. Yeah, and I had people yelling at me last year like that. Oh, poison ivy doesn't climb trees, and I'm like, where are you from that poison doesn't? Yeah, it climbs trees.
I can show you my trees because my sister was almost. I said, you might want to watch, and I take the picture. I'm like, yeah, no, that's poison ivy. Leave that one alone.
Yeah. They say leaves of 3, let them be, but that's not always perfect because raspberries have 3 leaves.
Yeah, there's a lot of other things. Yeah,
you have to recognize the pattern of the poison ivy. And plus, I've gotten poison ivy in the wintertime because it's harder to identify it when it's in the wintertime and there's no leaves on it.
Yeah.
You got to know what the roots look like. So, yes, identifying the poison ivy, poison oak, and poison sumac are important. There's actually not as much poison sumac, at least around here, as I thought there would be, but a lot of poison ivy. So definitely be careful with that. Don't just walk up to anything and touch it. You're right. But
right. So, and your classes are that they can find your classes on your website, on the Black Sun Farm website?
Right? BlackSunFarmCT.com is my main website. That's like my hub of get everything about me, and my blog is there and everything. The online classes, the website is actually like, there's a link to it there. But it's herbalremediesbyamelia.com. And that's just because I had to have 2 different things. The website that I had was not housing the online classes. It was a pain in the butt. So I had to get a different website for the classes. but all my digital downloads and everything are there. Please, hopefully you don't get overwhelmed, because I have like 15 or 16 classes. There's a lot there. I'm basically just trying to teach you everything I know.
Well, and if nothing else, they could always reach out and have a conversation with you.
Yeah, you can ask
me. Start.
Exactly. Like, I need help. Where do I get started? That sort of thing. And that's totally fine. I'm happy to help you. Send me a message or whatever.
So we got a few minutes left. I wanted to ask you, are there specific seasonal foraging tips that you can share for those that are looking to explore this like lifestyle year round?
Yes. In the winter time, like when everything is dormant, that's when, well, as an herbalist, or it's not as much foraging, it's more of an herbal remedy kind of thing. That's when you harvest bark for medicinal purposes. If you think about like when maple syrup is running, when people are going to be harvesting maple syrup, usually like February, the sap is running up and down because the sap is running up and down inside the bark, in the cambium layer, up to the leaves. That's the same time you harvest bark on all trees. They're dormant, they're not covered in leaves yet. That's the best time. Spring and summer is when you harvest aerial parts. So AERIAL, aerial parts, well, anything above the ground.
Gotcha. Okay.
So stems, leaves, flowers. That's when you want to harvest any of that stuff. You can still harvest roots in early spring. That's fine. But the reason you wait until fall to harvest roots is because by the time fall rolls around, autumn rolls around, the plant has the aerial parts of the plant have started to die down, and they are the plant is basically sucking all its energy back down into that root to get through the winter. And it's no longer putting energy out into producing leaves or flowers. So all the sugars and everything are concentrated into that root, and it's going to be sweeter and stronger in the fall. So you want to dig up the roots in the fall. And that's just the basic yearly thing for herbalism and foraging. You can forage any of those things. I would not harvest bark in early spring when the tree is putting the leaves out, because that's like you're going to hurt the tree. Other than that, everything else you can harvest roots in the spring, in the summertime. If you run across a bunch of burdock and like, oh my God, I'm never going to see this again, I need to dig some up now, go ahead. It's not the end of the world. It's just the ideal times to do those things are what I just said.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we got a couple minutes left. So what is the best way for people to get a hold of you, and what do you want to leave the audience with today?
BlackSunFarmCT.com has links to everything. All my social media links are there. All my criteria, like my education and everything is there. If you want to look anything up, my blog is there, everything. So that's the general hub. You can find me on TikTok or on YouTube. My screen name there is @theoriginalmealchan, which is a long story. I don't want to. I couldn't change it. By the time I had a fan base, I was like, oh crap, I should change my name, and I didn't. Yeah. So, but on Facebook and Instagram, it's Black Sun Farm. So if you Google Black Sun Farm, that's what comes up. If you Google my name, Amelia South, what's going to come up is a series of condominiums in Florida. Because there's an Amelia Island in Florida with Amelia South brand condominiums. So don't, just it's Black Sun Farm or Amelia from Black Sun Farm.
Tell them you want royalties for using your name.
I swear, when I found out about that place, I was like, this is BS. I can't.
I want royalties. That's my name.
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous. So don't Google Amelia South, because that's what's going to come up. It's like 16 different websites for condominiums. And just remember, food is medicine. I'm gonna quote Michael Pollan, who's a famous food writer. Eat food, not too much, mostly plants. And that does not mean you have to be a vegan. You don't have to be a vegetarian, but the majority of the things that you're putting in your body should be plant-based. And then you're eating meat and dairy and stuff like that if you want to. But
yeah, not the typical stuff that they show what you're supposed to be.
No, yeah. The USDA food pyramid that you've been taught for the last 40 years is wrong.
Yes.
It is very wrong. Just, don't trust the government.
I want to thank you, Amelia, so much for sharing all that with us. I know we could go on for like a really long time because you are such a wealth of knowledge. And I just want to say I love your energy and passion. And I greatly appreciate you coming on here and sharing that with the audience. Thank you. And everybody, we will see you next week. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next time.